Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your overly caffeinated magician host, Tony Cañas. And I am pitching the third in a quadruple hitter today, which matches my record, I believe, for the most podcasting one day. So I am a little bit tired, but at least I slept well yesterday. Today, I have with me Danish Yusuf. I think I got halfway to the correct last name pronunciation. CEO and founder at Zensurance. Danish, first of all, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. I too am highly caffeinated. I think I'm on cup number five here.
Wow, fantastic. All right. And your company name, Zensurance with a Z, has inspired me. So I am changing my background to
There
something
you
a little
go.
bit more Zen-like. By the way, I really like your background. Your marketing people have done a great job on that. Uh,
Thank you.
so this is the background I want to have for the rest of the conversation. However, given that I realized about 10 minutes ago that you guys are Canada based,
Yes.
there is tradition to be followed for every Canadian guest that I've had in the past. I call this my flirting with the Canucks background, so I will use this one, and it goes really
Very
well
good.
with my general red thing. Uh, so according to LinkedIn, you are in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. So normally we break the ice with the what is the weather doing today in your area of the world, and I'm usually very good at guessing for most of the US. I am not nearly as good with Canadian what's it called geography. I've only been to
Okay.
Calgary and to Montreal. I've never been to Toronto. I'm going to be there next spring for Broker Tech Fest, for Amplify Broker Tech Fest. So Mississauga, Ontario, I have no idea, but it's Canada. So June 14th, I want to guess that it is nice and like spring like weather. Like
Yeah.
you're not freezing to death today. That's about as much as I can guess.
No, that's fair. Where are you based?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll be colder than you, where Toronto will typically be like a Chicago, a Boston, a New York, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
So Celsius wise, we're about 15, which I think is low
Yes,
60s,
for
maybe.
for our heathen American audience, that's like a 58 to 60. Uh,
Yeah, that's right.
all
So,
right,
which is
perfect.
typical for us.
So Mississauga, is that Toronto area?
It's a suburb of Toronto.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you for indulging me on that. So we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Zensurance?
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Zensurance is a Toronto-based um, company. We're 9 years old, about 350 employees across the country. We're a broker and an MGA, and our target segment is small business owners. And our goal is to provide an honest, simple, transparent experience for the small business owner to directly get insured, understand what they're covered for, manage the policy, go through claims, so that the full life cycle of that small business owner. Um, for in many cases, we design our own products, we price them, we build the wordings, we distribute those ourselves. And in some cases where it's a more specialist product, we will go to external insurers, MGAs, wholesalers to place more specialist policies. So we have the dual track.
Okay.
Um, Heavily tech focused. So there's a lot of automation, a lot of um, I'd love to say AI is all over the place. It's not quite there. We leverage the AI built into, say, Salesforce or Zendesk or Mixmax or any of the tools out there. We like instantly turned that on and started learning. We are investing ourselves as well to make it work better for us.
Fantastic. I'm actually happy that that's the case for AI, because one of the biggest problems in my life for the last 18 to 24 months is that every freaking insurtech, or just about every freaking insurtech that I chat with, is calling themselves an AI company. Uh,
Right.
and I and I'm a non-technical guy. I'm an insurance guy, not a technical guy. So it's hard for me to suss out who is for real and who is little more than an API call to ChatGPT.
Yes.
That makes my life messy and complicated. And I believe that the reason they're all calling themselves AI companies is because it's the only way to raise capital.
It's a great way. If you're public, your multiple goes up, right? If you're private, well, yeah, you're able to raise more money, maybe at a higher multiple.
Yep. So let's kind of dig into it. Okay. So Toronto based, 9 years old. So 9 years old puts you into like the grandpa of insurtech, right? Like the survivors, the mature insurtech. So that's a good
Right.
thing. 350 employees. Okay. So kind of at the edge of what is a startup and what is a like established company kind of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, so do you guys consider yourself a startup still, or at this point are you a pretty established tech first broker?
So I'd say we're both. One way, I forget who defined it, but I love it. Love the definition. The definition of startup that they provided is someone whose best days are ahead of them. And an established company's best days are behind you.
that,
I
so
definitely want to say we're a startup.
that is a nice definition for marketing. The
Yes,
problem with
for
the
marketing.
definition, is that then I end up hanging out with, you know, leaders from Westfield Insurance, a carrier that I love. They're 177 years old, and sometimes
Right.
they'll go ahead and call themselves a 177-year-old startup. So
Right.
yes, your best days might be ahead, and I love you guys, but like at that point, the word startup is meaningless, right? You
That's
might as well
right.
say a company that's not dying. uh, but yes, at 9 years old, I will let you get away with
Yeah.
that. Okay, so broker and MGA. Okay, perfect. So I am less familiar with distribution in Canada than I am here in the States. Although I've been hanging out with a lot of Canadian insurtechs at Amplify Broker Tech Fest for the last couple of years. That's been in Calgary.
Okay.
It's moving to what's it called, to Toronto this coming spring. So I've learned a lot there. Okay, so brokers are basically independent agents. Right,
Yes.
right. Okay, perfect. And then the MGA model exists in some countries, not in others. I'm gonna go by the assumption that the MGA model in Canada is very similar to the MGA model in the States, where basically for at least some things you hold the pen, even
That's
if
right.
you. Okay, perfect,
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay.
So now there's wholesalers, there's MGAs, there's MGUs. People use them interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
There are
In
subtle differences.
in my world, an MGA, an MGU, and a wholesaler are the same thing from my perspective. I've never worked at one of
Okay.
them, right? I've helped them as a
Okay.
recruiter. I've had them on the podcast. Adrian Jones recently posted on LinkedIn a kind of comparison chart with an MGA, MGU, and wholesaler, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was super helpful. And then like somebody jumped in and was like, "Well, this is not quite accurate." Right. So I think that like everything else in our industry, it's a little bit messy.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
that's right. That's
perfect.
right.
Yeah,
Definitions aside, for us, we do hold the pen, like you
perfect.
said. We develop the wordings, we define the rating, we issue the policies. We don't hold the risk on a balance sheet.
Perfect. So yes, in my mind, that is an MGA, which is a super hot model in the last few years,
Yes.
right? Like it is amazing how many tech first MGAs have shown up out of nowhere and are doing amazing work, and I love having them on the podcast. So yeah, like there's a new podcast called The Age of the MGA by three friends of mine.
Okay.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. So might want to consider. I think they're on episode 5. Uh,
Okay, I'll check them out.
yeah, check them out. Amazing. Like I'm loving their stuff. Um, all right. So you guys are focused on what here in the States we call small commercial. Okay.
Right.
So here in the States, small commercial uh is very profitable for the carriers, and it's very hard to do well for the agents and brokers. So I'm assuming it's very similar in Canada. Here, the problem here is a small commercial is very heavily very service heavy
Hmm.
and premium light. So
Yes.
the combination of that is, if I'm a traditional broker and I have not invested in a ton of efficiency through technology, uh, the moment like my own little podcast slash recruiting firm, those are two separate firms, but they're both
Yes.
teeny. And then I also run a magic firm. I'm a
Okay.
magician, right? So I've got
Oh,
basically three LLCs,
cool.
but each of them are tiny, right? So our insurance for each of those three is a minimum premium, right? So
Right.
if I call my agent to make any change on the phone, the moment they answer the phone, they've lost money on me for the year, right?
Sure.
So I'm assuming that in Canada is very similar.
Yes, it is
Okay.
true. With
Mhm.
the exception that it's not that profitable for the carrier either, because in
Okay.
Canada, they too are not very efficient. It's very manual. So their expense load is pretty high.
Okay, no, the carriers here are not efficient.
Okay.
They underwrite well.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Okay.
or you know what? My understanding is that it's profitable for the carrier. If I am mistaken, I would love to have somebody from Travelers somebody from Hartford.
Yep.
Hartford,
Sure.
who is basically the number one small commercial carrier. I would love to have some from a couple of top three small commercial carriers to come tell me that I'm wrong and small commercial
Mm.
are not profitable.
From a
Because
loss perspective, it is. I believe
that's
from
what
the expense
that
side,
was
it
my
sort of,
understanding. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. The expense side, all sides of the industry, carrier, MGA, agent, everybody has to
Yeah.
invest in better technology to service this transactional
Yes.
business well. Okay,
That's
so
correct.
perfect. So one thing that I loved about your explanation is the focus on the client understanding their coverage, because sadly,
Right.
at least here in the States, a lot of what we saw in what I like to call InsurTech 1.0, which was very redistribution heavy, uh, and full stack carrier heavy, the Lemonades of the world, right? The
Hmm.
Lemonades, Roots, etc. Next, although Next I think seems to have been done well and just got acquired. I'm very happy for them. But the Lemonade Root Hippo model, uh,
Yeah.
basically, uh, they did not seem from the outside. I have no inside knowledge, but they did not seem to be super focused on coverage, right? They
Mm.
seemed really focused on price,
Okay.
and I efficiency is a good thing, and efficiency with buying insurance is a good thing. But if I don't understand the coverage, you're not doing me a good
Yeah.
service, right? So tell me a little bit about that focus on making sure that the client understands the coverage, especially with
Yeah.
clients that don't speak insurance, right?
Yeah. So I think one, I would say price is very important to this segment,
Absolutely.
right? I think
And
our
speed.
research, speed definitely, simplicity, transparency. Um, if you do surveys, people will say, "Hey, price is the most important thing to them,"
Mm-hmm.
right? As much
Of
as we
course.
don't like to hear that, the reality is that's the mindset of many of the buyers.
Of course, of course.
Um,
Yeah.
Many of them also, based on research, say, look, if the price is within 10% of what seemed reasonable, okay, we'll just go for it. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
the rock bottom, but it has to be reasonable, competitive,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll go for it. So
Absolutely.
I'd start with that. I'd say we want or we do provide a lot of educational material. In some cases, we really force the buyer to read and check off certain things. We
Fantastic.
can't ensure that they understand it. We can't
Mm-hmm.
ensure that they truly read it, but we do put it in their face. We have a lot of content on our website. We send emails, we send documents. There's a lot of focus on making sure we do everything we can to equip them to understand the policy and the coverage.
Fantastic.
Uh, we also have 170 licensed brokers across the country. They're licensed in all of the provinces. So at any point, someone can pick up the phone, email, text. I've done WhatsApp discussions as well with clients,
Uh, for for
answer questions.
for, for our uncouth American audience, which is a heavy part of the podcast, WhatsApp is the messaging service used everywhere else in the world except for the US, and you can create really
Yes,
cool automations with it. Anyway, continue.
this is very true. Consider it the Signal alternative.
But
um,
I don't know if Signal for business is very good. WhatsApp for business is incredible.
so
Um,
you're right. So I was in Dubai just 2 weeks ago, and every business is on WhatsApp for business, and you can do so much on it.
we
So
have
it's a really good point.
we have so I'm from Costa Rica originally, but I left Costa Rica before the mobile phone era,
Okay.
and my family is still there. And then we have traveled all over the world. I've been to 85 countries. My girlfriend's been to 152. She's literally a Guinness World Record holding traveler. Uh, and uh, and then we lived in Argentina for a year between June of 23 and April of 24. And everywhere but here, WhatsApp is live.
Yeah. Yeah.
You, you,
Everything
you,
happens
you,
on
you
WhatsApp.
you can't get like I remember chatting with Hughes Bertin, who is like the most best known figure in Latin American insurtech, who happens to be French, but
Yeah.
such is life. He does live in Latin America. He does speak Spanish. Before I went to Argentina, and I remember him asking for my WhatsApp, and I made some snide comment, and he's like, in Argentina, like you can't get a cab without WhatsApp, right? You can't make it like out of your apartment without WhatsApp. It's just life. So that's
Right.
good that you guys are integrated. I have no idea how used it is in Canada, but that's good that you guys.
Yeah. It's not a common thing, but if the customer wants to, we can.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Yeah, we digressed. Where were we going?
Uh,
Educating the client.
Educating the client, yes. Okay,
That's
perfect.
right.
And one thing that I
Um,
found really
mhm.
interesting. Oh no, if you have more on educating the client, please keep going. Don't let
Yeah,
me interrupt you.
there's video, there's documents, there's emails. Once you get the policy, we have a sequence during which, if you're a retailer, we'll send you retailer specific educational content, additional coverages. What's a deductible, what's a retention. There's a lot of stuff that goes out. It really is up to the client to read and make sure they understand. And the last thing I'd say there's many startups that promote, hey, 5 questions and a quote, or one click and a quote. We're not that. We might ask 40, 50, 60 questions in the application form,
That is a
just so
lot.
we
Okay.
fully understand what we are underwriting, and it shows
Mm-hmm.
in our loss results. We're very, very happy as our underwriting partners.
That as a former underwriter, I love that. As a buyer of insurance, that makes me go, ooh. So
Yeah.
how do you design it, design the UI in such a way that your drop off rate, I don't know if that's the correct terminology,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
is not horrific compared to everybody else.
I think the trick is making the questions relevant for that specific industry.
Perfect,
So
perfect, perfect. So if I'm a recruiter, ask me don't ask me a ton of questions about my physical location when chances are I work from home and
that's right.
no candidate ever steps foot or client ever steps foot in my place. Uh, and for my magician business, don't ask me uh no, ask me specifically, event
Yeah,
and venue related questions. Ask
exactly.
me ask me if I include live animals or fire in my show, uh, because that
Absolutely.
does matter in the right in the risk that I bring
Yes.
to your to the policy. Okay,
That's right.
uh,
You're a magician. Maybe you deal with children, so we have to offer you abuse coverage, right?
precisely. I
Um,
personally I don't, but exactly like make the questions relevant to because you're
that's right.
right. Even if you end up asking me 30 or 40 questions, if the questions are relevant to the risk, then
Yeah.
I don't mind them as much. And number one,
Our conversion goes up actually when
yeah,
we
and
ask relevant questions.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it took me long to get through it. Because
Right.
and number two, I know the answers. Like part of the problem of asking me stuff that's unrelated is that I don't know the answer. So I'm gonna have to go find an answer or find a way to tell you that this answer doesn't apply to me or
Right.
this question doesn't apply to me. And that probably increases drop off. So love it,
That's right.
love it.
That's right.
Uh,
The added benefit then is also the applicant believes that we understand their business and trusts us even more, therefore is more likely to not only convert on the website, but to actually buy.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. And you did mention that they can call an agent at any point in the process, and that's I
Yeah.
agree that that's fantastic and needed. Um, one thing I found very interesting, and you mentioned it twice, I believe, is that your own policy wording. Right. So here in the States, the great majority of admitted policies, I don't even know if
Mhm.
Canada has excess and surplus.
We
Right.
don't.
Okay,
We
okay. So
don't.
everything's admitted. Everything's regulated.
Everything is not regulated. Everything is
Also,
ENS.
everything nice. The Wild West, the Wild North. Okay.
That's right.
From
With
my
the
perspective.
caveats that
Uh-huh.
there is just the understanding that you have to do right by the customer. The treating customer fairly is the principle, but
Hmm.
our wordings are not filed. Our pricing is not filed for commercial.
Okay, so is there such a thing as ISO or whoever? There's two or three here in the US that basically sell on a subscription the language to the carriers
Mm.
that has been tested in court. Is there such a thing that you can
Yeah,
buy off the shelf? Okay,
IBC, Insurance Bureau of Canada, they've got IBC standard wordings.
okay,
And then there's some pricing data that can also be purchased. I believe we also use some of the US data and
okay.
then sort of
Hey,
Canadianize it.
if anybody at
Yeah.
IBC is listening, I would love to have you guys on the show to talk about how it works in Canada. Okay, but you guys do a lot of your own policy form wording.
Yes, not from scratch. We take
Okay,
what's available and then we modify, we update,
perfect.
we tailor. Quite often, what you'll find is if a big insurer is selling a small business policy, quite often it's a mid-market policy that's
Mm-hmm.
toned down a bit for small business, or maybe it's
Makes
the
sense. Yeah.
same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ours is no, let's take something really basic and then build it specifically for small business.
Oh, interesting. So the theory basically is that by doing it that way, you end up with a better package of coverages that is better applicable to the reality of small business today.
That's right, more relevant for the small business.
Perfect.
We don't need to throw in a bunch of coverages that are not relevant for them.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
then we're not quite there, but we also want to make the wording a little bit easier to read. Now, you can't go too far because it
That
is the contract. There's a
that
lot
is
of
such a
precedent.
tricky situation, right?
Yeah. So at
Uh,
least the deck page we try and make prettier.
yeah, here in this in the States, Three by Berkshire Hathaway
Yeah.
attempted a three-page commercial policy that was
Hmm.
totally easy to read. I haven't They might still be doing it. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about Three for a while. I would not be shocked if Berkshire ended up having horrible losses and and went like, well,
Yeah.
that particular insurtech idea they didn't work. Let's focus on the others. No idea. Same story. Anybody from Three, whether you guys are still around or not, I'd love to have you on the show. Berkshire will never let you, but I love to have you on the show. If the company is no longer around and you were part of the team at Three and you're no longer under NDA, I would love to have you on the show. I know my audience, right? All right. Okay. So you design your own products, you price them, you word them, at least you modify. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And for specialty products, then so in my mind, specialty is anything that is not home, auto, and like small business, like mainstream business, right? When the business gets a little weird, then
Okay.
what would
What do you
we
mean weird? Like a
um
magician?
like a magician, exactly.
Non-standard. Yeah, yeah. We do a lot of
Exactly.
that.
What
No
we
offense to
think of
magician. We do a lot of that.
Perfect. What
Yeah.
we think of here in the States as ENS, and in the rest of the world, and here in the States also as London business, right? Or Bermuda
Yeah.
business, right? Okay.
Yes.
So anything more specialty, then you can still do it through your platform, and you have capacity providers or partners to handle the actual risk.
We have the pen for a lot of that too. Like we can do a
Fantastic.
magician in-house. We can do dog walker, a dietitian. We can do a chiropractor,
Okay.
a
Are you
high-rise window
guys
washer.
uh, and you guys are only Canadian? You're not in the U.S. market at this point?
That's right. Only Canada.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So tech heavy from the beginning, right?
Yes.
InsurTech, very much a tech company that does insurance, but does it very well, sounds like.
Yeah. I think, yeah, we're tech and we're insurance. I wouldn't say one is more than the other.
Perfect.
To do it right, you have to do both right.
I agree.
We've got a dozen underwriters, we've got brokers, we've got people with a lot of experience. I'm not traditionally an insurance person. I've
Hmm.
become one over the years.
Okay.
I'm a software engineer by training,
Hmm.
and then I've learned to be an insurance person. But we've got underwriters, wording people, claims people. It's a really solid team.
I have to say, looking at the website, like just putting my mouse over business insurance, you guys are doing a lot of difficult lines, right? You're doing
Yeah,
business risk, errors and omissions. You're doing all the standard lines. You're doing cyber. You're
yeah.
doing DNO. You're doing
We'll do
events. You're doing
surety. We do
legal.
commercial auto. Yeah,
You're
everything.
doing medical malpractice, which is not as big of a deal in Canada as it is here. But yeah, and you're doing professional liability. You like it is an impressive amount of coverages. In fact, if you guys were a young insurtech, if I was interviewing you and you were only 6 months in or a year in, when we get off the call, I would basically be like, that's a lot of lines you're going to. Are you sure that like are you sure? But doing it that long, I feel much better about you doing that many lines. And then I go to the industries tab, and holy crap, like you do a lot of different industries. Uh,
Yeah.
fantastic, fantastic. Or all right. So okay. Um, I would love to hear the origin story. I'm always a fan of hearing the origin story. I do have your LinkedIn pull up in front of me. So,
Hmm.
engineering by trade, University of Toronto, and then Harvard MBA. How did you and IBM, McKinsey, Samsung, McKinsey? Okay. So
Yes.
how does the Canadian Harvard business MBA grad, IBM, McKinsey, Samsung, McKinsey guy end up creating this company?
Well, insurance is just such an important industry, and it's so exciting. I don't say that facetiously. I'm real.
I agree.
Yeah, I really believe that. My last few years at McKinsey, insurance was my industry of focus.
Perfect.
I didn't pick insurance. The people I was working with, the senior people,
Uh-huh.
they were insurance folks, and I had happened to work with them, and I followed them along. And because they were insurance people, my clients ended up being insurance clients, and I love the industry. Great people. I had a very solid network in Canada amongst the insurance companies. I still had never opened up and read a policy up until probably 6 months
That was
after
funny.
starting Zensurance.
Mm-hmm.
And then that too was when I was pitching somebody. They said, "Have you even ever opened up a policy?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, I should probably have to be able to say yes the next time someone asks me
So
this."
how was that experience? So you're this very smart, highly educated, successful human with an engineering degree and a Harvard MBA, who has gone through freaking McKinsey, uh, and finally somebody calls you out and says, "Have you even opened a policy?" You go
Yeah.
home and open a policy. What did you think? Was it what you expected, or were you like, "Oh my god, what did I do?"
Oh, it's so complicated. You've got what's covered and then what's not covered, except for when it is covered, except for when it isn't covered. You can't avoid it. This is all precedence. This is all
Correct.
experience. So it
Correct.
needs to be there. So, like, we started Insurance with the same focus that we have today. 9 years later, our focus continues to be the same. One geography, one customer segment. We wanted to do the different lines that the customers would want. So our focus has not changed at all. The big change, though, was we never expected that we'd have to be an MGA. We thought via APIs we'd be able to connect to insurance companies and be able to distribute and
So
only focus on that.
I want to pause you there for a second. When we started the podcast 7 or 8 years ago, I distinctly remember whenever an insurtech would say the word API, as soon as we finished recording, we would be like, "So what is it like working with Hiscox US?" Because they were the
Yeah.
only carrier that had it, that had API. And
Yes.
then little by little, more and more of them started. And nowadays, like when I ask about implementation, the majority of carriers are at some level of API ready. So what did that
Yeah.
look like in Canada 9 years ago? What was it?
Didn't
Pretty
exist.
much
It
nobody
hardly
was
exists
API
today.
ready.
It hasn't changed a whole lot. There are some
Really?
carriers with some connectivity,
Okay.
but honestly, it's quite limited. And so
Ah.
I would be bold enough to say it's basically
All
non-existent.
right. So
Um,
here in the States is significantly better.
okay,
That not perfect, but significantly better.
okay,
Implementation is significantly easier today than it used to be. All right.
yeah,
Um, so you launch. Somebody calls you
right,
out and says, actually read a policy. You go home and you read it,
yes,
and you start realizing how complicated and how interesting it is. You
yeah.
realize how deep into it. Were you like 2 years, 3 years in by the time you realize, okay, we're gonna have to become an MGA to do what we want to do?
Yeah, I think it was probably 2 or 3 years in.
Mhm.
Initially, we knew it would be tough going initially. So every application off our website, we had to then take the information and fill out PDF applications for each of the insurance companies we needed to submit the risk to. So we're filling out
Wow.
PDFs, we're mailing it, we're getting
Are
responses
those
back.
so here in the States for commercial lines, those are accords. Do you guys use
Yeah,
accords or do you use something better, or is it non-standard at all?
non-standard for most cases.
Okay, so it's basically it's worse. Like accords are bad. This sounds worse than accords.
Because each insurer will have their own form.
So yeah, this is worse than accords.
Most accept
Yeah.
others' forms as well, but
Oh,
when
okay,
you
okay,
want
okay.
to issue, many require it to be refilled in their form before it's issued.
Okay. Okay.
So
All
there's
right.
a lot of back and forth. We get
Mm-hmm.
quotes back. We're sort of generating this information of here's the profile of the business. We got 3 quotes. We put it in our database. So now, over 2 years, we had maybe 30, 40,000 data points. We could guess what the price would be for the next application.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay.
So
And
continued learning.
mm-hmm.
Certain carriers had more volume. They got more submissions. They then gave us indicative rates. They then gave us the pen. And so the volume started shifting towards those that worked more efficiently with us and
Mm-hmm.
had good products.
Mm-hmm. Today is what percentage, if you know, of quotes are bindable final quotes, not just indications?
More than half.
Oh, that's fantastic. In commercial
Yeah.
lines, that's
In commercial
fantastic.
lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. All right. So on average, like the average magician, we keep going back to the average magician to get a quote with you guys, or the average, handyman, whatever,
Sure.
mom and pop restaurant, whatever, to get a quote with you guys can get a bindable quote in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it depends on
Perfect.
how fast you go, but I believe our average journey is 12 minutes.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. For commercial lines, beautiful, actually. Uh,
Yeah. And in
fantastic.
some cases, you'll get 4 different quotes, different
Mhm.
wordings. You can pick what you want, and then purchase.
All right, all right. So the listeners of the podcast are about evenly divided between carriers and brokers, agent brokers. So let's start with the carriers. So if I am a carrier in Canada who does commercial,
Hmm.
and I am not yet going to market through Zensurance, why should I join the party, or why should I partner with Zensurance?
I believe we're the future of small business insurance distribution in Canada. So work with us to be part of that journey. Our loss performance is fantastic. In a smaller private setting, I can share more information with some of these carriers if they're
Perfect.
interested. But I would say, yeah, it's really, really good. Knock on wood. Um, there's a huge segment of the population that wants to shop online.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're currently going through traditional channels, you're missing out on that demand. And conversely, if you're capturing that demand, it's not necessarily competing with your existing demand. It's a separate segment of the
I
population.
would pause you on that. So I made my name within insurance by writing first doing a lot of articles and speaking, and then writing the book on how to engage and retain millennials as employees in the insurance industry. So
Mm,
I'm the generations insurance guy, but from the employee perspective. So not from the customer's perspective, but still, I learned a lot about. I'm not a primary researcher. I bring the research into the insurance space. Uh, and yes, quite simply, uh, many small businesses will get inherited from
mm.
from dad or grandpa to Tony or Renee or whoever, and that millennial or Gen Z customer, most definitely, like we have always been the last thing to think about, right? Insurance, the small thing.
Yes, right.
The people open a candle shop because they love candles, not because they want to run a candle shop. And the last piece of running a candle shop is getting insurance for the candle shop. So they already hate the process, but
Yeah.
they were forced to go meet with an agent to get coverage. Then an 800 number, or whatever the equivalent is in Canada. And Gen Zers and millennials will 1,000% want to get a quote online. Now, we also want to be able to call the 800 number and get
Hmm.
immediate help from an agent if
Yep,
we have questions. Uh,
that's right.
but yes, I would agree with you that demographic. I just wanted to add the demographic point of view that as the boomers retire and pass, more and more of those businesses will get handed to millennials and Gen Zers,
Right.
who are not going to continue buying insurance through you if you don't have a
Yeah,
beautiful UI
that's right.
to do so. Um,
And there's like 60 or 100,000 new businesses being generated each year in Canada.
and those are going to be heavy millennial and Gen Zers.
Millennial, they brand new policy. They're going to shop. Hopefully, they find us. Another 2 points I'd say we're probably 3 days away from having 5,000 Google reviews with a 4.8 star rating. So very close to that. I think
Amazing.
in 6, 8 weeks, we'll hit 500,000 businesses supported in their insurance journey across Canada.
Amazing.
So some big milestones, just
Yeah.
demonstrating not just our success, but the fact that customers are finding value in the services we offer, and that the insurance partners we work with continue to support us in the journey.
That is absolutely awesome. So, so 9 years in, uh, that is a very, very mature insurtech. I tend to ask the younger companies, but I will ask you too. Uh, what else is, and I will say this episode will probably go live, let's call it circa May 30th. So that you have an idea. So maybe in case you need to be careful about a new thing that you
Mm,
can't talk about yet. So let's call it May 28th. Okay. So
okay.
it won't go before May 28th. So probably shortly after May 28th. Uh, I'm actually putting it on the calendar right now. Do not move forward. Okay. So taking that into account, what is in the development pipeline that you're excited about for 2025 that you can already talk about?
We have a new batch of appetites that's going to be released somewhere over the summer to the late summer. And this would be traditionally seen as high hazard. So
Mm-hmm.
snow plowers, roofers, remediation contractors, high liquor, family style restaurants is a wide range
Fantastic.
of appetite that today is very painful to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Later this year, it'll be available on our website. You won't be able to purchase right away, I think, but you can get the price, you can be ready. We will have someone talk to you just to make sure all the right risk control practices are in place, provide you what we think is needed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a massive expansion of appetite. I'd say that's one big thing coming up. Um, Second, it's not imminent, but every week I get 3 applications from brokers that are not related to us saying, please quote this piece of business, thinking
So
we're an open market MGA.
that is a very good point. And I had skipped that question. I was about to go back to it. So we talked about why carriers should join. If I'm an
Mm,
independent agent or broker, and I'm not using Zensurance, why should I join the party?
yeah. So today we don't work with independent brokers. When I say 170 brokers, I mean employees of ours that are our
Oh, okay. So so
salespeople.
so so uh, there is no market access for the okay. So
Independent
you guys are
brokers.
only D2C.
Well, yeah, I mean small business, direct to the small business
Oh,
owner.
yes, yes. Okay. So
That's right.
you're
So
only D2 small business.
little B, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that's
perfect.
right.
You don't go to market through the okay. So you get
Mhm.
asked a lot about that.
That's right.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Several times a week, thinking we are
It would make sense, yes.
open market MGA. Now, to those brokers, I'd say you should do a little bit more homework before you send an application because you're
Uh-huh.
disclosing your client information when you shouldn't be. So my response always is, hey, please don't send this to us. We're not an MGA that works with third-party brokers. However, we keep being asked, can we make our suite of products available to other
It makes so
brokerages?
much sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not something we're doing today, but if someone that has meaningful business, I'd love to talk to see if there's an opportunity.
All
It's
right.
not something we're doing today, but open to the
Nice.
discussion.
All right. Fantastic. Fantastic. Danish, super interesting. Always love learning about the other markets that I'm not as familiar with. And I only regret that every time I've said join the party when given that you guys are called Insurance, what I should
Yes.
have said, I just thought of it. The marketer in me just thought of it. I should have said, so any carriers that are not yet meditating with Insurance,
Yes.
why should they join the ashram or uh,
Come and feel zen with us.
so the name. Uh, I'm making a wild guess. I mean, an educated guess that the name was chosen because you wanted it to be a Zen-like process compared to the painful process from before.
So partially, yes. We had a few design criteria for the name when we were picking it. One was we wanted the name to do something with insurance, not the name of something random, but something to do with
Yeah. You
insurance.
didn't want to name it maple syrup, which would have
Yeah,
been a
that's
very
right.
Canadian name.
We didn't want that. We
Uh,
wanted something to reflect the ease of doing business. And we wanted to be able to buy the domain name for it. So when we put all of that together, there's so few options. We didn't have Zensurance.com to begin with. We only had .ca. .com had been owned by somebody, I believe it was either Norway or Denmark, many,
they,
many years
they
prior.
weren't using it.
They weren't using it, but they owned it. So we launched with Zensurance.ca. 6 months in, we said, let's try and buy that .com. And
Uh-huh.
we kept reaching out to the owner through the tools that are available. No response, no response. Finally, we said, you know what? We'll offer you $5,000. The next day he responded. 2 days later, we had the domain.
All right. So you didn't have to negotiate. The offer was good enough.
Yeah, we thought 5,000 is good. We weren't going to spend, some companies spend $500,000, $1 million. It's worth it for them in their scenario. It wasn't
Mhm.
worth that much to
Totally,
us,
totally
but
get it.
we
Yeah.
got it for 5K.
Okay. Awesome. Like great little story. Uh, yeah. Very, very interesting story. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I love that approach in general.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll see you at Amplify Broker Tech Fest in then again, you don't serve the broker market, so you have no reason to be there. So I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
find an
that's right.
excuse to go to a traditional insurance conference in Canada.
That's right.
Uh,
I met quite a few of those.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.